So next up, we have Michelle Hanlon. You've heard from her earlier in the panel. She is a space lawyer. She is a co-founder for All Moonkind and a founding partner of ABH Aerospace. Michelle has more than 25 years of corporate transaction experience and is now focused on commercial space and the intersection of commerce and public law. Please help me welcome Michelle to the stage.
Hi again, everyone. The good news is I'm starving, so I will be as fast as I can. Bad news is you might hear my stomach chime in, but so thank you, Tufi, Jane, and Julia for inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to present. I'm very thrilled to be here. I'm going to take you back in history, even as we all know, we're really concerned at this conference about our humanity and making sure we preserve our humanity as we move forward. So one day, about 3.5 million years ago, one of our common ancestors took a walk. We don't know why, but when these footsteps were discovered at a site called Laitoli in Tanzania, they were recognized as the very first upright footsteps humankind made. These footprints are cherished, studied, preserved. In fact, they are actually reburied and then excavated from time to time as scientists deem appropriate or necessary. Why do we go through all this trouble? Because our history is vital to our sustainability. To paraphrase Robert Penn Warren, while history cannot give us a program for the future, it can give us a fuller understanding of ourselves and of our common humanity so that we can better face the future. We understand the need for preservation well here on Earth. In 1959, Egypt had to make an agonizing decision. In order to promote and accelerate the modernization of its economy, it needed to harness the power of the Nile River. Unfortunately, the plan to build what is now known as the Aswan High Dam would result in the creation of a vast lake, which would assure the obliteration of 3,000-year-old temples and monuments, footprints of an ancient civilization known as Nubia, often called one of the cradles of human civilization. But that didn't happen. Instead, more than 50 nations came together, contributing funds and technical expertise. They didn't let these temples drown. Instead, they physically moved them, piece by piece, to higher ground. Why? As Russell Train, the father of World Heritage, recognized, World Heritage is something more than simply helping to assure protection and quality management for unique natural and cultural sites. It's an opportunity to convey the idea of a common heritage among nations and peoples everywhere, individuals everywhere. It's a compelling idea that can help people unite rather than divide. It's an idea that can help build a sense of community among people throughout the world. Recognizing that we humans must assume a common responsibility toward the past in order to move in unity toward a successful future, 193 nations have ratified the World Heritage Convention. 193 nations agree that our history here on Earth must be preserved. Almost 50 years ago, on 20 July 1969, 2 humans took a walk on the moon. It was an achievement unparalleled in history. The sites where these footsteps lay undisturbed are the first archaeological sites with human activity that are not on Earth. They bear witness to some of the most important technological developments in human history. They tell a story of science, technology, and culture and serve to capture the imagination. And they memorialize the work of thousands of scientists and engineers throughout human history who have studied or endeavored to reach for the stars. And yet, only one of these footprints is protected by international law, recognized by the international community as part of a heritage site and carefully preserved. Does that make sense? We don't think so. The narrative of the human history on the moon starts in 1959 with a spacecraft called Luna 2. In 1959, it crash-landed on the moon, becoming the first item humans placed on an extraterrestrial surface ever. The sphere is a bunch of medallions that spread across the lunar surface when the Luna 2 impacted. And they remain there on the lunar surface, undisturbed and unprotected to this day. 24 Luna missions followed Luna 2 to the moon or its vicinity, including Luna 9, which made the first ever soft landing on the moon, and Luna 17, which landed on the moon in 1970, carrying Lunokhod 1, the first successful rover to explore another world, and yes, make the very first extraterrestrial wheel tracks. The remnants of all these missions remain unprotected on the moon. Of course, Apollo 11 is perhaps the best known moon landing site. In all, there were 5 Apollo missions carrying humans to the moon, each with its own firsts and breakthroughs. Apollo 12 was the first to retrieve human-made material from the moon. Apollo 14 saw astronaut Alan Shepard become the first and, so far, only human to shank a golf ball on the moon. Apollo 15 was the first mission to give humans the ability to drive on the moon. Apollo 16 was the first crewed mission to land in the lunar highlands. And Apollo 17, which landed on the moon on 11 December 1972, marks the last time humans traveled beyond low Earth orbit. Running out of time here. We've left a lot of stuff on the moon. We have a disc which has messages of peace from 74 nations. Charlie Duke left a picture of his family. There's even a museum on the moon with drawings by Andy Warhol and Richard Rauschenberg. There's a memorial to cosmonauts and astronauts, and there's an olive branch. Clearly, the moon holds a bounty of cultural heritage on numerous sites. Since these are also, trying to go fast, we've also sent a lot of robotic items to the moon, U2 and Surveyor. All of these, in all, there are more than 80 sites containing human material on the moon. Since these artifacts play such a vital role in our history and sustainability of our future, you'd think they'd be well cataloged, if only that were true. This is how the Apollo 11 mission is listed on the United Nations Registry of Space Objects. That's right, the lunar module isn't even mentioned. Under international treaties, nations only need share the objects they are launching into orbit. Here, the US simply listed the Saturn V rocket that sent Apollo 11 to the moon. The UN registry identifies only 46 objects with status on moon. Apollo 11 is not one of them. Their descriptions range from development of spaceflight techniques and technology for Apollo 12 to simply space research and exploration. The US keeps its own detailed register of items left on the moon, which can be accessed online. It is far more detailed, but the list has no international legal status. In short, there is no international agreement or even consensus as to what human objects are on the moon. And today, that matters more than ever. Because we're finally going back. At least 3 private companies will have a robotic return by 2020. India and China plan to send rovers this year. And many space agencies are looking to return humans by 2030. It's not hard to imagine cultural artifacts being removed and sold, or the sites themselves being harmed by careless human action and activity. International law offers no protection. At For All Moonkind, we are working to rectify this, to fill the gap in international law. We are an entirely volunteer team of lawyers, scientists, policymakers, and communicators. Our ultimate goal is the ratification of a convention, like the World Heritage Convention, that will recognize and institute protection for sites and all our cultural heritage in space. The first step is, of course, identification. And here is the giant leap for blockchain. We are delighted and privileged to announce today that we have partnered with Toda to map the moon using cryptographic tools enabled with blockchain, registering and documenting human cultural artifacts and sites on the moon, and bringing accountability and immutability to these records, our human history. We will work together to create, develop, publicly disseminate, and maintain a decentralized grid reference system of cultural heritage sites on the moon that should be designated for preservation or some level of protection. And the dissemination part is vitally important. This is a project we want to make available to everyone. We want to have a dynamic register which breeds curiosity, and we look forward to using this as a baseline for educational materials directed at children. Using blockchain builds both trust and universality. It will also build unity. We look forward to working with the space agencies that have objects on the moon, Russia, China, India, Japan, and the European Space Agency, to properly identify their objects and locate them as precisely as possible using images from LROC and JAXA. Thinking forward to the day we have protocols for deciding how much protection any given site should have, blockchain allows great transparency and flexibility in that decision-making process. And again, thinking forward, any company that goes to the moon will be encouraged to check the registry to indicate where they plan to go. We can advise them of any artifacts that may be near their proposed location, and we can add them to their registry once their mission is realized. This is a giant leap for blockchain and the best hope for our heritage in space and our peaceful and sustainable future here on Earth and in space. Our heritage sites in space, humanity's baby steps to the stars, are the cradle of the next phase of our human experience, our evolution into a spacefaring civilization. They should be afforded the same recognition and protection as our footsteps in Laetoli and our first temples in Nubia. And Toda is going to help us do this. We are grateful that Toda shares our passion both for our history and our future. Thank you everyone at Toda for your generosity, for donating your time and expertise to our important mission, and for your passion. We look forward to working together to pave a path to sustainable unity in space and in our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Hopefully we can all go to Moon together.